off your screens for a while now, since August, because Parliament was on recess. But now we are back because the House is back, and we are back with full vigor and with all the zest and the zeal to deliver for you all the best and what you need to know in and around Parliament, where your representatives are to represent you in the legislative arm of government. My name is Duke Mentor Poku. We'll be back. Welcome back. It's been 4 days of sitting for the third meeting of this session of Parliament. It's been quite eventful looking at the fact that it's the first week. But for the major stories that have dominated headlines in this first week of sitting, let's go for the recap right about now. The day's sitting began with an address from the Speaker to welcome back MPs from recess. The Speaker also set out some bills to be considered during the meeting.
The House will be required to consider a number of bills, including Narcotics Control Commission Bill, Judicial Service Bill 2019, Affirmative Action Bill 2019, Conduct of Public Officers Bill 2018, Ghana Fertilizer Development Authority Bill 2019, Pre-Tertiary Education Bill 2019, Education Regulation Bill 2019, the two Constitutional Amendment Bills 2019, Tree Crop Development Bill 2019, Petroleum Exploration and Production Amendment Bill 2019, Office of the Special Prosecutor Amendment Bill 2019.
Deputy Majority Leader Adjo Asafo also announced that the main business for Parliament in this meeting, which is the 2020 budget, is tentatively scheduled for the 14th of November.
Mr. Speaker, in this meeting, we will also have the budget hearing, which is tentatively scheduled for the 14th of November, and debates will be scheduled, Mr. Speaker, on sectorial basis. Estimates of the budget will be interrogated at the committee levels, and subsequently, Mr. Speaker, this House will have to pass the appropriations bill. I therefore admonish honourable members to regularly and timely show up in the House to enable us execute the business of this House effectively and efficiently.
The Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu's remarks rattled some feathers when he hinted at plans to table a special motion on the controversial PDS deal, which was approved by the House in July 2018.
Speaker, I need to serve you notice that we on this side, we are thoroughly studying the PDS agreement that has so been cancelled. As we are reading, we will invoke number 49 Honorable to bring the matter to the floor.
We shall come to matters arising later.
Later, two members of Parliament associated with the ECG concession agreement spoke to me. Emmanuel Kofi Amabua was Ghana's energy minister when the Millennium Challenge Compact 2, which brought about the need for the ECG concession, was signed.
International audit by a reputable company to even, if it's like easy, you say PDS should go. How much have they collected from Ghanaians?
FTI did that on behalf of the American government.
They did that? What about our own government? Our own government? No.
Cabinet constituted a team that went to do that, and based on.
I don't trust them. Do you? Do you trust them? We want a reputable international audit firm to come and see where our money has gone. Now we know the collusion. Where is our money? We need to know that, establish that, and clearly know and find the legal means to collect our money from PDS.
Andrew Mensah also acted as counsel during the creation of one of the consortium partners involved in the PDS deal.
The official government position, which was communicated by the Minister of Information, was to the effect that some material breaches had been detected. And so government was proceeding to suspend the concession, conduct an investigation, and when it concludes that investigation, a determination will be made as to the way forward. How anybody can conclude that these actions that the government of the people of the Republic of Ghana took amounts to fraud, amounts to stealing, amounts to a creature for family and friends, I leave it for the good people of this country to judge.
The minority maintains a firm position that the PDS deal should have been terminated the moment breaches were detected with the validity of the demand guarantees. Following the termination of the deal and the withdrawal of $190 million in Tranche 2 funds from the Power Compact 2, the minority leader Haruna Idrisu says government should be held liable for causing financial loss to the state.
Conversely, we could term this as financial loss to the state arising out of the reckless, fraudulent, and irresponsible acts of government in misleading Parliament and in misleading the entire country without thorough and diligent scrutiny of the documents that they submitted to Parliament. I'm just stating the termination clauses of the said agreement so that I can make an informed position publicly on this matter.
Other MPs on the Mines and Energy Committee shared thoughts on the next steps after the PDS deal.
Government should, as a matter of urgency, pay them the monies that they were going to pay PDC, or what is the name again?
PDS,
whatever called them.
PDS,
Yes,
PDS.
I'm not sure I remember their name. But whatever it is that government was originally going to pay them, there was an arrangement put in place, which for me wasn't quite neat. The debt of ECG, government debt, had been ring-fenced, and that was what the Mahama government did. We're going to pay all that back to, I think, to PDS or whatever, I don't know, or they weren't going to have to see to all those things. Look, to answer your question directly, number one, government should make sure that all its indebtedness to ECG is paid. You have no idea how much money government owes ECG. One of the reasons why ECG wasn't performing properly was because of that.
I am very, very worried what happens to subsequent compacts. Now that they cannot trust us, would the Americans be willing to invest further? Don't forget Compact 3 is coming. And we're even talking of the original compact, which will enable Ghana export power. Because as it stands, we have a lot of power. If we cannot be part of that, it means that we are going to be left behind.
On the floor of the House, MPs contributed to a statement on breast cancer awareness from Deputy Majority Leader Ajua Safo.
Fortunately, breast cancer is also preventive in a number of ways, especially by practicing good health habits such as limiting the amount of alcohol intake, avoiding smoking. Statistics have also proven that women who breastfeed and are physically active are less prone to this disease. Controlling one's weight as well as avoiding exposure to radiation and environmental pollution are also preventive measures that can be taken on board.
So that the man is helping to campaign against breast cancer. That was what I said. So the men should help in this campaign against breast cancer because the man can equally, from research and from what the two honorables, in their statements, that men can equally also have breast cancer. So this was just an advice. Mr. Speaker, we have to embark seriously on campaign against breast cancer so that it will reduce the risk of having breast cancer and reducing the risk of death associated with breast cancer.
Fisheries Minister Elizabeth Avle was programmed to answer questions in the House, but the Majority Leader gave notice that the minister was out of the jurisdiction. This did not sit well with the Speaker.
The Ministry responsible for fisheries and bring the Deputy Minister and the Chief Director to this Honorable House before we rise so that they can tell us something specific. Because we are all the painfully, all right, if other ministers have been listed, star 618, star 619, star 60620 are all for one minister, which renders rather obtuse our process this morning. Please bring both of them here and let them tell you something to tell them. We are standing it down.
He subsequently suspended proceedings for an hour to enable the clerk and leadership of the House get at least a deputy minister in that sector to appear in the House to answer the tabled questions.
Honorable members, we are in our House Luckily, we all have offices now. I will pray that we suspend Citi for 1 hour and I wait the outcome, because I want us to make a point that we are busy working and we expect what should be done to be done. Therefore, let it be noted that we are waiting.
When the House reconvened without the minister or a deputy to answer questions, the Speaker had this stern directive to issue to ministers.
I'm not in a position to tell what really prevented the deputy minister from arriving. The chief director himself and the other director who were here were not able to respond because they themselves tried to contact him, did not be able to reach him. So as I stand here now, it will be difficult for me to fault the deputy minister or the minister for their absence.
I am directing that in the future, ministers we know must move from place to place, time to time, all in the course of official duties. But the chief directors must ensure that written communication, possibly their presence, is made available to the clerk of parliament when such emergency and sudden situations arise, so that at least parliament will advise itself and refix such questions accordingly. It is good for the good order of events and also to show due regard to this honorable house.
Welcome back from that break. Now we're moving on to from the floor segment, where we really get to delve into the major issues in Parliament for the week. Now, just to give you an idea of the major issues that we'll be delving into in this edition, first we'll be looking at the opening remarks of the leadership of the House, since we are in a new meeting. We would also look at the issues that have surrounded the botched PDS deal, which was approved by this House in July last year, which is the July of 2018. We'll be taking the views of some members of Parliament who are actually very much abreast with the issues of the PDS deal. One of them, the deal was signed when he was Energy Minister, and the other served as a Director Secretary for the creation of one of the local partners for the PDS deal, which is now botched. We'll be looking at that.
The House will also consider the following instruments: chieftaincy, membership of regional houses of chiefs, instrument 2019, tourism regulation 2019, meat inspection regulations 2019, national youth authority regulation 2019, national sports council regulations 2019, and the Ghana Armed Forces Amendment regulations 2019. Furthermore, a tall list of treaties, conventions, agreements, and protocols will also be considered. In this regard, I entreat all honorable members to brace ourselves for the task ahead. It may interest the House to know that the Budget and Fiscal Analysis Office of Parliament was duly commissioned at the 4th African Network of Parliamentary Budget Officers Conference to strengthen Parliament's oversight function and effective management of public finances. Also, the Parliamentary Service Board has approved Parliamentary Staff Housing Loan Scheme, which will enable staff to access loans for building, purchase, and refurbishment of their homes. Furthermore, agreement has been reached with Rehoboth Properties Limited to provide mortgage facility to enable members of staff to own their own houses while in service, and this will motivate them to have the peace of mind and devote maximum attention to their work, which will ultimately enhance productivity in this honorable House. Honorable members, we have received correspondence from the President about a visit to Ghana of the Prime Minister of Barbados from 14 to 16 November 2019. It has been requested that we grant the distinguished Right Honorable Mia Amor Mortley, Q's Member of Parliament an opportunity to address this Honourable House at 3 p.m. prompt on Friday, 15th November 2019.
We only can be thankful for God's generosity in bringing us back. Mr. Speaker, I note that many of our colleagues are back, haven't gone home, visited their constituencies, and are ready to work. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, this sitting will be dedicated to the election year budget of 2020, which will determine what the fate of our democracy and those on this side may be, and where my side will be going forward into January 2021. Mr. Speaker, we on this side thankfully have gone through a process of competitive democratic elections, electing many of our candidates for the 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. Let me use this opportunity to congratulate those who have survived and have made it, and those who would make it into 2020. Mr. Speaker, it's our determination to constitute the majority party in government come January 2017, and not a minority. And Mr. Speaker, I pray that my colleagues on this side, who are in the majority, will resolve the confusion over the date of their elections to allow members of Parliament to concentrate on their work in the chamber, in order that, Mr. Speaker, to complete this House their attention. Speaker, you've made a significant point. This House and Parliament must remain a forum where right and wrong is debated. But Mr. Speaker, as we debate, right must prevail, not partisanship. We need to manage the expectations of the Ghanaian people and to address the nagging issues which still affect them: poverty, quality of life, and housing. So, Mr. Speaker, I can only say a warm welcome to all our colleagues, and to pray, Mr. Speaker, that the Minister for Finance come on time to the election budget of 2020, so that thoroughly we can scrutinize it and make justice to it.
Do the business of this House effectively and efficiently. Mr. Speaker, I wish to congratulate our colleague members from the minority side for successfully conducting their parliamentary primaries recently whilst the House was on recess, Mr. Speaker. Although some good and experienced parliamentarians lost, we wish them well. Mr. Speaker, and on a lighter note, Mr. Speaker, to the minority leader, the Ufiasem, which is commonly quoted, Mr. Speaker, and the literal meaning is that you deal with issues within your house before you step out. So the NPP or the ruling party is never confused on certain dates for our primaries. Mr. Speaker, finally, we are going to witness 3 different elections in one single day, which is the 17th of December 2019. Mr. Speaker, this will be the first of its kind in this country. These elections involve the Assembly members' elections, the Unit Committee members' election, and the referendum on the elections of district chief executives. Mr. Speaker, this is historical, and I entreat members to give their various districts the needed support, and we want to see more women representation as well. Mr. Speaker, on this note, and for giving me this opportunity, I want to welcome your good self, Mr. Speaker, your 2 deputies, our clerks, our hard-working staff, our press corps to this meeting. And I believe that the good Lord will help us all to work tirelessly in building a strong parliament for our beloved country.
A country that has voted and given a country to people to lead us. This is what they did. Now, when that thing happened, the Minister of Energy, now based on what the bank is saying, comes out and says that PDS is fraudulent, isn't it? They form a committee. They go and count. What do they say about PDS? That PDS is what? Instead of fraudulent, they are saying something else, which is close to fraudulent. We still insisted there's a problem. Now we know that the shareholders didn't even bring money, a dime. How can you be a shareholder for a serious? And because we didn't do due diligence, we are supposed to make sure that this guarantee is in place before we hand over ECG.
So we are in a situation where there seems to even be a disagreement among the two main parties. Ghana on one side, MCC on another side. MCC.
I'm going to land and get there.
Yes, MCC still.
Let me come there. Let me come there. Now, let me fast forward because we know the mess. We also know how this SPV has been formed by PDS. The intent is to basically absolve themselves from any liability. The Ghanaian partners have also formed a SPV on the advice of the Minister of Finance and Government, which makes it so terrible. Now, the minister, now you see that letter you are talking about. I've not seen the letter, but it's obvious to me the minister is responding to that letter. He's responding to that letter and he's saying that, we are getting rid of PDS and we are calling for restrictive tendering and all of that. And I'm interested in that matter. Listen, the issue is that we are a sovereign country. Based on everything we know right now, we are saying that the way forward is that there should be an urgent international audit by a reputable company to even, if it's like easy, you say PDS should go. How much have they collected from Ghanaians?
FTI did that on behalf of the American government.
They did that. What about our own government? Our own government? No. Our
cabinet constituted a team that went to do that and based on.
I don't trust them. Do you? Do you trust them? We want a reputable international audit firm to come and see where our money has gone. Now we know the collusion. Where is our money? We need to know that, establish that, and clearly know and find the legal means to collect our money from PDS. Second, this proposal about restrictive tendering, you have a leaking basket. A leaking basket. You are saying that we should go allow you saw all the scandals at PPA, allow you to find some 4 companies, pick one, and just let run with the ball like nothing has happened.
Let me take you back a bit. This international audit firm, is it some a group that's agreed upon by both the Ghana party and the US party to do a job for both parties so that there can be some form of conclusion?
Okay.
Or what?
The bottom line is that our asset, ECG, is over 22 billion. It's more than anything we are talking about. We need to fight to protect what we have. I'm just telling you that the stakes. You see, the consequences of this issue is this. One, the heart and soul of our energy sector will collapse. And if it collapses, we are going to be in crisis more than we've been before. If our distribution sector is completely in disarray as it is right now, even in places right now, people don't recognize this. They are fighting their own pay. I'm just telling you that what will mean is that they are not going to pay the power producers. PDS has just seen the letter, I'm sure, by the Minister of Finance that they should leave. You think they are going to bring you the money? They will keep it and save it and run with it. I'm saying that the danger right now is that the distribution company that you say you fired, you've not even written to them. The Minister of Finance has not officially written to the PDS, or they've written to the Americans. It is not even the Minister of Finance who should have written the letter. It should have been written by the middle boss.
I followed the transaction quite extensively, and I knew that the position that government was going to ultimately arrive at was essentially two. Either to terminate because, in fact and in law, PDS were in breach of their obligation to provide a valid guarantee. That's one. Or two, that the government was going to say that, look, yes, even though you are in breach and the breach is material, we think that we should give you an opportunity to remedy the defect because of the role and the circumstances that we are all privy to. And so when I got wind of a copy of the letter, I laid my hands on a copy of the letter, which clearly indicated government's intent to terminate. I wasn't surprised at all.
But the US side is not happy with this. They are not happy. They would want PDS reinstated, at least from what we've seen.
Well, that is up to government to continue the engagement with them to come to some mutually agreeable position. Because, you see, and I say this advisedly, purely on account of the fact that I'm a lawyer and I understand how some of these things work. Okay? I suspect that the Americans are taking the position that, consistent with what the FTI report said, MIDA, IFC, Hunton and Williams, and PDS did not themselves commit any fraud. And so if the parties to the agreement themselves are not complicit, yes, the commission of fraud was established, because there is no denial, even from our court, that the insurance bond emanated from their custody or their offices. They are contending that the officer who issued it did not have authority to do so, and that in any event, that line of business is not even part of their line of product.
That's the question. This is a difficult position. 190 million we may lose, compact rate we may not have access to. Is government willing to take this very hard decision, which may bring us into a very abrasive stance with the U.S. government? Very serious.
There's the legal and then the political. Okay? We've heard in this country forceful accusations that have been made by the opposition that His Excellency's government has packaged ECG assets and has sold it to its family, friends, and cronies. Is that a fact? Is it? But they're spinning it out there. And so, government will have to take, regardless of the legal position, which in itself is right, weigh the economic benefits that come with the compact and the political cost of the misinformation that is being spilled out there by the NDC and take a decision. That's the reality. Okay? And so the duty, it lies on all of us to let the Ghanaian know the truth.
And then, Journalist of the Year Bernard Koku Avle was in Parliament this week to speak to the chairman and the ranking member of a very powerful committee of Parliament, the Roads and Transport Committee of Parliament, about what? You guessed right, the deplorable nature of roads in the country.
Since 2017, and I might say that not much work was going on even before 2017, as a matter of fact. 2017, I am not aware that any significant work has been going on that particular road. The sad part of it was that where the contractors got to before works were suspended, things have deteriorated further. So even if you were to pay the contractor today and ask them to go to site, they might have to spend a lot of time and money bringing it up to the level they were before things deteriorated. Government since 2017 have made various comments about what their intentions were in terms of completing the Eastern Corridor Road. You'll notice under their famous Sino-Hydro deal, which I still consider not fit for purpose, because the method of funding would, for me, still looks not sustainable. Bauxite down there, nobody knows how much bauxite, and we're supposed to use the proceeds of bauxite to repay the financier. So no wonder the president went around the country and cut salt. But as far as I'm aware, it's only in Tamale that interchange project is going on. No other project is going on. A portion of Eastern Corridor, which was supposed to be done by an Israeli company, who I think are still on site, was captured as part of the projects that were going to be done under the Sino-Hydro. Though at the time the NDC was leaving office, we thought a sustainable way of funding it would have been through the Cocoa Road project. And the contractor mobilized and was working, though not at the pace that was expected, but they were on site working. And we were told that it's part of Sino-Hydro and with POP and Parliamentary. The president and the finance minister, the road minister come to parliament and taunt, especially members of parliament from Volta regions, that, look, you couldn't finish it, we are coming to finish it. As we speak, there's not a shovel on that road, and it's deteriorated. You are aware of news items of the president himself getting stuck at some points on that road and other things. So there's a lot of anger in that part of the region for they call it deliberate delay in doing the project.
But if I look at the roads in the Volta region our correspondent spoke about, they've been in disrepair for a long time. In fact, apart from the Avle road that leads to Sogakope, most of the roads are bad. The whole Avle road, I think over 10, 12 years, it hasn't been done. We've had the Avle-Vakpo stretch of the Eastern Corridor, not in a good shape. The Hohweja-Asikan road, terrible. The Akrofu-Bame road, even the dualization of the whole main roads has not been done after several promises. You are a member of the committee that's on roads, right? And of course, you've been in government before, as in these roads are not roads that deteriorated in 2016. Why has that region suffered so much when it comes to roads?
Well, as a son of the region and a member of my party, I would have said that from a hindsight, maybe we should have committed more resources to especially Eastern Corridor Road, because the section that suffered most was the section that was under GOG funding. And once the road is under GOG, it becomes a challenge for the finance minister to prioritize that over other things. The other ones you mentioned, truth be told, were on site. Some of them were on site, though slowly. The big push came in 2015, 2016, when under something we called the emergency roads, a couple of roads across the country were awarded, including those in Adaklu and many parts of the country. And the source of funding of those projects were going to be from the Cocoa Road over a period of time, and also the road fund. Sadly, this government came to power, as you are aware, and suggested that all those roads were awarded without recourse to the Procurement Act. So they were going to review. Indeed, I remember the contractor working on one of the roads in Adaklu was written to that suspend work, and that we will tell you what to do. And that road, which is just about 7-8 kilometers from Akwete to Waya, the contractor still hasn't returned to site over the period of time. So I would say that the biggest problem why the roads across the country, and especially in Volta region, are not the issues are not being addressed is financing. It's not lack of knowledge of engineering or lack of will or anything. It is financing, and government is not prioritizing the construction, rehabilitation of roads as is expected. It's financing.
The Minister of Finance deputy spoke to me recently and said they had made allocation for paying up to 2.2 billion cedis to contractors, and the contractors were in their hundreds. In fact, getting to 1,000. And that was it. In fact, she said the amount they were paying to contractors between January and August was the largest single amount any government had paid to contractors. And that this was going to be the third payment they were making. From the perspective of the road committee, do you know how much government owes contractors in total? Has any have you interviewed the minister on and sort of found out the true state of indebtedness to the road fund in particular?
Well, as of the time we left office, from my checks, road fund indebtedness was something close to 2 billion Ghana cedis. But then don't forget, road fund was able to generate about 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. I must say that, yes, part of that accrual was leveraged on, we took some UBLO thing, which was supposed to be repaid by August 2018. And indeed, by the time it was that loan was matured, the NPP government went and borrowed extra on it. So as far as I'm aware, the indebtedness to contractors was never close to anything that the 5 billion, the 6 billion the government was talking about. Why the government was talking like that was that they basically did something which is quite strange. That they went and took the face value of all road projects awarded over the period and added it, and it said that is the debt. But what you pay is interim certificate. So it is not possible to say what you owe contractors stays Because today you might owe 2 billion, but by the close of next week, other contractors might put in their IPCs, which will be certified. So that figure cannot be clear. But I am saying that if road fund was accruing 1.2 billion annually, 2017, 1.2 billion, 2018, 1.2 billion. We're in 2019 now, it will be slightly more than that. It means that a minimum of 3 billion would have been available. What it meant was that even if you take out the remaining amount owed to UBA out, which maybe I was told was about 600 million, we still have a minimum of 2 billion available from road fund alone to clear that debt. Don't forget in the budget, the minister said they were making available 1.3 billion cedis to the road ministry. So how are they able to pay 2 billion cedis out of 1.3 billion cedis? So is the finance minister saying that they are going to find money outside of the budget? Because if you were to go to the ministry right now, the releases in attachment to the budget are not even halfway yet. So where are they going to get the money from? So curiously, whenever I hear them say there's 2 billion available, there's 1.6 billion available, I ask the question, where is the source of the funding? Because data from controller doesn't show that there's any money available like that. So far, they've been paying some money from the road fund, and I'm told the finance ministry has also paid some money. But I am not aware of availability of any 2 billion as I speak today to pay contractors.
Okay. Let me end by asking you about the Cocoa Road audit, because that was quite a major issue, and we were told that the government wanted to be sure that cocoa roads were actually cocoa roads, because we were told that there were certain roads which were not even in cocoa growing areas which were put on that list. Has the committee received the report of the cocoa road audit, and do we know the status of cocoa roads as we speak?
Well, very good question. Sometime in 2017, the committee met with Chief Executive of Cocoa Board and some of his colleagues in Parliament here. And he made very wild allegations, including the fact that they have discovered that under the NDC, the almost 200 individual cocoa road projects, some of the contracts were inflated. He used the word inflated, and he said it publicly. And some of the roads didn't even exist, and then we awarded them on contract. As a minority spokesperson on road and transport, knowing the facts, I took them on until today. I am aware that they've contracted some members of their party to review that project. We are yet to determine whether they were even procured appropriately according to the Procurement Act, and doled out some money to them. Recently, they came out disputing the quantum of money that was paid to the reviewing entity. But the fact is that not a single cocoa road project, as we speak, contract have been identified as having been procured fraudulently. Sadly, my brother, we went around the country a bit. We went to Western region. There were cocoa road projects that were 100% complete. The government told the contractors we won't take over because we are doing review. There were cocoa road that were 98% complete. Just if it's 98%, maybe it's just road furniture and line marking. The government says we will not take over. The contractor must hold on to it because we are doing cocoa road review. So 3 years down the road, the government is unable to publish the report of the cocoa road. The committee asked many times, I filed a question, they will never answer the question. It's simply because they lied to the people of this country that under President Mahama, something untoward went on in terms of cocoa road. So today, they said that the projects were more than the amount available from cocoa road. My brother, this is a simple thing. We awarded projects that some of them will be completed in 5 years. Cocoa syndicated loan comes in every year, approximately 1.2 billion. So as long as we grow cocoa, we would be able to pay for the amount. So nobody was saying that the amount, the value of the contract that were awarded, we're supposed to pay it in a year. So I don't know why NPP gave the impression that, the value of the contract were more than the cocoa syndicated loan. We never said that. So we are in a very big situation. I can give you this. The state of Ghanaian roads has never been this worse. And right from the city in Accra here, every corner, because if you look through the budget, the performance in terms of routine maintenance is falling behind schedule. In 2017, they fell behind schedule. In 2018, they fell behind schedule. We are in 2019 now. The releases will suggest that we are going to fall behind schedule. And the effect of that is that our roads are in very deplorable state. And that means that even free SHS cannot be fully realized. One DC, one factory, you need road to go and build factories. You need road to do tourism. So the fact that government is never prioritizing funding road from reliable sources means that they don't think that development is in terms of road is a priority. Free SHS cannot cure road problems in this country. Government, and I don't blame the road minister that much. And he's been put in a corner where he goes around promising contractors on daily basis. I was told he promised contractors, even today he was going to pay them. Meanwhile, the finance minister is in Washington enjoying himself. So the problem is financing, and the earlier we find sustainable ways of financing road, the better for us.
They will be available. The committee is going to meet both the finance minister and the roads minister in a meeting for us to them to tell us how much they have so far, how much they have left to be paid, and the modalities for how much they have. I know for how much they are supposed to pay. The last time when the mid-year budget, I want information to make my presentation, they told me they have a 2.7 billion debt unpaid. So I think 2.2 billion is going to pay a lot of them. But we want to meet the two ministers for them to tell us the modalities, how the payment is going to be done. I'll take this opportunity to appeal to contractors. Some of them come to my office and you see men crying. Some of them are losing their properties. Why? Because they've used it for collateral, and for years they have not been able to settle. The banks have been so liberal, shall I put it that way, to them. Other than that, most of them have even gotten their buildings sold long ago. So it's my prayer that they have waited until this time. And I can show from what I've seen from both the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Roads and Highways, by the close of this next month, November, most of these contractors will be paid. That should also not suggest that we're not paying anything at all. The last time I checked from the Ministry of Roads and Highways, ever since we came to power from 2017, we have paid a whooping sum of 3-point-something billions, about 3.2 or something billion to contractors. Except that the debt were so huge. And you know, payment of contractors, as you pay them, two things get the debt increase. Work, you see, once you pay them, some of them are still working, and they'll keep on raising certificates. So when they raise certificates, it adds up to their debts. And we call something called interest on delayed payments. When contractor go for a loan to build your road for you, and you don't pay him, the interest that the bank charges on the loan that he has taken from the bank, that same how do you call it? He will pass on the interest to the employer. So these are some of the things that also get. But I have to say, and thanks our contractors, most of them that I've spoken to have never and haven't added any interest on delayed payment to government. They are of the view that they are working with government, and they will not stop working with government. So what they will do to help government to pay them so that they can also continue to work and not getting their bill. I don't want this to do the blame game, because when President Kufuor was leaving office, the way he managed the road sector is what the same as the NDC managed when they were leaving office. I don't think they will be able to manage the roads as they did. They did not leave any good legacy on road for us. They left us mess. They left us debt. You can't just. I was chasing on the Kota road in the prior to 2016 elections. We've done everything. We left with the award of contract, and it was delaying. So I went to the feeder roads prior to 2016 election to find out whether I'll be able to get the contractor's letter for him to move to site. And I saw contract work awarding haphazardly left center. I asked myself, do you keeping tracks of the contracts that you are working? That the contractor walk to the feeder roads and he returns with a contract letter. That is the resource of what we are facing today. Okay. And it is no and never again should any government put this country in the mess that we are seeing today, the mess that you award contract more than what the Ministry of Roads and Highways can contain.
Thank you very much.
You would agree with me that it's been a very, very heated week in Parliament, potpourri of issues that have actually rolled out here in the House in the very first week of this meeting. But we'll go on a break now. When we come back, I'll get to share my views with you on the main issues in the House this week. With you on that level, share with you my views and opinions on the major issues in Parliament in this week. I have a couple of issues to talk about. You would know that it's been a long term of recess, about 7 to 8 weeks since the Parliament adjourned for recess, and now they are back. So during the recess period, some things happened. First, the NDC went to primaries and they lost 9 sitting members. This is in addition to the 3 or 4 of them who say they are not coming back to the House voluntarily. Now, this presents a huge challenge to the minority in the House, because there are some people that they've lost who've actually been very, very, very helpful or very critical to the strength of the caucus in the House. So you would mention someone like the Honorable Joseph Yeletre, who is not coming back to the House, having lost his primary in the Wa West constituency to another fine gentleman, a former executive secretary to the police, IGP, who will be coming to replace him. But that's an issue for another day. We may have cause to interview him. There's also the Honorable Rasmubak, vibrant young member of Parliament, first termer, is also not coming back, and a couple of others. For those who have voluntarily decided to go off, we also have the Honorable Inu Safsini, who is very, very keen on the real work of Parliament, which is the legislative work of Parliament. I have 2 suggestions for the minority. One, I think that they need to begin grooming members of Parliament to take up the space that is going to be left by some of these people who are going out of the House because they've lost their primary. Take a look at somebody like the Honorable Joseph Yeletre. He's a pharmacist, he's a lawyer, he's a diplomat, has very vast experience, and sometimes the Speaker just defers to him just for him to bring his perspective to issues on the floor before decisions are taken. So, that comes from long service and long experience. But there are others who are willing to learn. So if the minority would avert their minds to that, they should as quickly as possible, now that people like that are still in the House, get people to understand these people, and there should be a deliberate attempt to groom others, so that next year when they are out of the House, we will still have some appreciable level of experience, and we will not feel, or the House will not really feel that much their absence from the House. So that's it by way of them. That's the first suggestion. Second suggestion, those who are coming in, the minority should, as a matter of urgency, get them closer to the House, especially get them closer to the caucus, especially as some of these seats are safe seats. Wa West, you can say, is a safe seat. Kumbungu is a safe seat. These are places that if candidates or aspirants win the primaries, you know that at least 70% they are in Parliament already. So it's better they get them closer so that they get themselves abreast with the issues in the House, proceedings, lobbying, and things like that, so that when they get into the House, properly get into the House, take their seats, the vacuum that is being left will not really be felt that much by that. So that's by way of the minority. Let's go to the majority. Well, they also held primaries, but this time I was for what they call the orphan constituencies, in constituencies where they don't have seats and would want to wrestle seats from the minority. They didn't have a lot of issues coming up. Well, they are still running some other primaries as well. But what is causing the real issue is the primaries for the sitting members of Parliament. Before we went on recess, we heard it was going to be organized in January. But just this week, we heard that it's actually been pushed to April 2020. April 2020. That's the 4th month of the election year. That's some 8 months to the election itself. Now, knowing the nature of politics in this country, especially the dynamics associated with sitting MPs and their primaries, a lot of acrimony comes up. So he loses his seat. Now you have to do what is called reconciliation. You have to do rebuilding. You have to start unifying the unification process. After the primaries in April, you have barely 4 to 5 months of serious and active campaigning before the elections itself. When is the party going to have time to really unify, heal the wounds, and get members of Parliament, or get all the losing and the winning faction and all the stakeholders involved round to the table to agree on the issues before they go into the real contest? I think this is something that the majority should avert its mind to, so that after the primaries in April 2020, they don't get involved in a lot of issues and go into the main election with a lot of acrimony. That's something that the majority should avert its mind to, because even though taking it to April, of course, those who are contesting the sitting MPs, we know that it may be a measure to protect the sitting MPs, because once the date for the primaries is extended like that, the other contenders would run out of cash, they'll run out of steam and the rest, and may allow the contenders in the House, the incumbent, to use incumbency advantage to go through. But the other side of it is that after the elections, when the chips are falling, when there are a lot of cracks, you want to use 2 or 3 months to resolve that, it may end up being injurious. The majority should learn from that experience in 2008, when they lost most of their seats because of these cracks and the ability or the inability to unify the rank and file of the party after they went on that. So that's by way of the issues surrounding the primaries to select candidates or aspirants that will come to the House. Now let's move on to the almighty PDS deal. Well, this week, it's been terminated. The Americans have taken their money back, $190 million. This is an agreement which was ratified in Parliament in July 2018. This House sat, looked through it under 3 hours, which is something that we'll talk about later. Under 3 hours, read through over 41 conditions precedent, both went through the whole deal and approved it. I must give it to the minority, commend them, because I remember very well during the debate, they raised a lot of critical issues about the condition precedents, the bank guarantees, the demand guarantees. All those issues came up during the debate. I remember very well. And even before that, to single out John Jinapo, he advocated strongly that even the process for which BSC and the other companies were disqualified from the bidding process is something that should have been looked at. But as usual with our parliament, the minority will have its say, the majority will have its way. That's not to say that I'm absolving the minority of any blame. They are to blame for a couple of things. Why am I saying this? In instances where the minority have had cause to raise issues on the floor of the House and they are not heeded to, they have other things that are at their disposal. They could have brought the energy minister and the finance minister to the floor to answer questions. They didn't do that. They could have gone to court. They could have gone to court, as they have done in the case of the capping and realignment fund, and also with the NHIS and others, that they have got a ruling which has now caused government to come and change some of the way it restructures its finances in the House. They could have also gone to court on this PDS deal to ensure that the kind of international embarrassment which has been occasioned by the cancellation of this deal and all the issues that have been associated with it, and what some people are calling for, will not have been perpetuated if they had gone the extra mile after raising the issues on the floor of the House. They could have gone the extra mile. That they didn't do. Now I'm coming to the majority. Why did the majority not pay attention and listen to the issues that were being raised with the PDS deal when the minority raised it? Is it because they thought it was just politics as usual? Why? All the critical issues that were raised with the PDS, with the ECG concession agreement by the majority, because they have sheer numbers, they decided to bulldoze their way through. They decided to vote for it with their numbers. They decided to, append it, and now we are all here. ECG is in a state where, or this power concession agreement is in a state where everything has to go back to square one. They should tell the majority that in some instances, they should be nationalistic and not partisan and listen to the other side, so that the right questions and the critical questions can be asked. Because this is an indictment on the reputation of Parliament, that the deal came here, all the critical issues were raised, but it got approved at the end of the day. So, but I can't live without commending the Speaker of Parliament. He gave a very critical directive this week about the fact that there should be a space allocated to lactating mothers and parliamentary service staff for breastfeeding in Parliament. That's a good one to Speaker Okwe. That's how we wrap up Duke's View, and by extension, the chamber, for this very first week of this meeting of Parliament. My name is Duke Benson Poku. Enjoy the rest of our program.